Hey friends, I am so excited that you are here because today we are doing a VR to Han over at Simply Han, and the hashtag is Tarot Emoji Match. I get really excited about VRs. I think they're so much fun. I love to see them and I love to participate in them. And so I want to give Han a shout out and thank her very much for this awesome tag. So the first prompt was the Artist Paint palette, a deck with your favorite art. And that's a hard one, right? Because I have so many decks that I really love the artwork on. But when I was thinking about the decks that I currently have where it really does look like art, for me, the one that came to mind was my Cosma Visions. And I feel like if the artwork had been different on this deck, I may not have held on to it. This one is just, I don't know, it's so pretty. I talk about this all the time. I love the art style, I would say. I love the art style in this deck, and I really like the way that the court cards were done, as well as the majors. I really love the suit of trees. They're very beautiful. Look at this card. This is Soulmate's card. I'm gonna bring it in. It's just so pretty. It's so pretty. I love the suit of the lotuses in this deck as well. So here we have the 5 of lotuses. It's just really beautiful. I appreciate this art. In fact, I originally got I want to say it was the Prisma Visions, because it reminded me of that impressionist style of art, like this one. I like the fire suit in here too. It's just so cute. And so this really reminds me of that style of art. It's really pretty, and it made it really difficult for me because at the end of the day, this is a deck that I probably don't use that much. But because I love this art style so much, and the changes that were made in this deck, it's not really a traditional, I love this card. I love this card because it's not really like a traditional tarot deck in the way that you would expect. It's just unique. So I really love it. And I think for that reason, it's still in my collection because it's just gorgeous. The artwork is just gorgeous. And I'm going to give it a shout out because there is a prompt later that talks about edging, and this is probably like one of my most favorites. And I don't know if you can see the rainbows, but it's just so good. I love this. I love the cardstock. I love the size. I love everything. So that's the Cosma Visions Oracle, and this would be my deck that has my most favorite art. So the next prompt was book, best tarot book or guidebook. So that is a great question. I have a few that I wanted to highlight. So the first one will be Melissa Sanova's Kitchen Table Tarot. I picked this up, and I'm gonna be 100% honest. I haven't even opened it up yet or read it or referred to it. So, but I remember seeing this book so much featured on so many different channels that when I had the opportunity to pick it up, I did, knowing that at some point I would probably want to dig into it. And I think the best thing about it is that it's written in pretty plain English. It's very easy to follow along and understand from what I've seen reviews from other users of the book or readers of the book. So it's a book that I keep as a reference, but to be honest, I haven't exactly picked it up or gotten into it yet. The one book that I will say I picked up and read cover to cover was 78 Degrees of Wisdom. This book has a lot of great insight. I read this entire book. I have plenty of areas highlighted. I do refer back to this book at times when I'm looking for very specific information. It wasn't as easy a read, I'll say that, but it does have a lot of great information, and I refer to this quite often. The book that I feel that I have learned a lot from is going to be this one, Tarot for Yourself. And this is by Mary K. Greer. I love this book. And I haven't fully worked through all of the exercises in here just yet. But I started, and there's just so much information to unpack here, so many different ways to look at the tarot and how it impacts or influences your life, how to figure out which cards are your personality cards, soul cards, which one is your teacher, how to figure out your card of the year, like all kinds of things. So this has been a great workbook for me. I love this book. And I will always hold on to this book and keep it as not just a source of reference, but a tool for learning. I love it. So these are the books that I would share. The next emoji, Brain, a deck that makes you dive deep in thought. And I think there are a few decks that have that effect on me, but I think the deck that I will highlight here is going to be my Shimmering Veil. This deck, the artwork is stunning. It's gorgeous. And sometimes it goes its own way a bit. But it is so great, and this is the kind of deck that I'll pull a card and I have to sit with it for quite some time because the artwork pulls you in. It is a very intuitive deck, and there's so much to kind of sit with, so many different thoughts and feelings and emotions that come up for me when I use this deck. And I knew, well, I was gonna say I knew I wanted this deck, but I felt like that way about all I felt that way about all of my decks. But I knew I wanted this deck, and then as soon as I got the deck, I knew that I loved it and I wanted to always have it with me in my collection because it's so gorgeous, and it's special in its own right, and definitely the kind of art that you would have to kind of like, look at this one here. This is 3 of Fire, and you can see that that's what that is, but I don't know, there's just something about the colors and the artwork, and I don't know, it plays well in my brain. But because of this, I have to sit with these cards sometimes, or Actually, sometimes I'll even pull cards and leave them out, and reflect on them throughout the day, every time I walk past my reading table, because I want to make sure that I fully receive the message that I'm meant to receive. So in terms of a deck that makes me go deep into thought, it's going to be this one, the Shimmering Veil by Sela Conway. Our next emoji is going to be the coffee emoji. Well, it was coffee or tea, a deck that makes you feel cozy. And I really love to see people's answers in the video responses to this emoji, because I'm curious what people consider cozy. But for me, it's gonna be the Tarot of Light. And there's a very simple reason for that. It is because this for me is my hug deck. This is my bedtime deck. This is where I go to when I want a soft message right before bed to kind of think and reflect on. And I often feel like my guides speak to me through this deck. I get a lot of really beautiful messages and affirmations and a sense of comfort when I use this deck in the evening before bed, especially if I am feeling overwhelmed, or it's been a long day, a heavy day, and there's been a lot going on. My mind is racing, or my chest is, I can feel my heart pounding in my chest, and I will come to this deck. And I think because we have suits like angels and hearts and trees. I don't know, it's just, I find it so beautiful. And then the keywords are so great that even when you pull a card such as this card, Four of Hearts, depression, that you can still sit with this. And especially if you pull the guidebook, like, you will get what you need. You will get what you need from this deck. And so this is the one that makes me feel comfy, cozy. Especially it helps me download some of the craziness that's in my brain so I can relax a little right before bed. For that reason, this will be the deck that I would consider to be the one that makes me feel cozy. This is the Tarot of Light. The next emoji is going to be the Crossed Swords, a deck that you used for ancestral work. Well, I will be completely honest. That is not something that I do on a regular basis. I have done it a couple of times, and I've since parted with the decks that I've used for that type of work. And as I started to think about what I have in my collection and what I could possibly use, I definitely felt like I would pull my Tarot of Mystical Moments, because this for me is a soul deck. This deck speaks to me in a way that no other deck speaks to me. It can deliver what I need, and it can be direct, it can be stern, but it's always going to be loving. It's always going to tell me what I need to hear, but not in a rude or offensive manner, in a way that I can digest. Because for me, it's not the concept or the thought, it's the delivery. And this deck delivers for me in a way that I can digest it. It's just such a beautiful deck. This was a deck that I got on a whim, and I purchased it, and I love it. And I've done all kinds of work with this deck. I'm very greedy when it comes to this deck. I don't like to use it. Not that I read often for other people, but I would never use this deck for anybody else. I feel like this is a private deck just for me. And I would never use this for anyone else. I just love it so much. I feel like I could definitely use this deck if I needed to for ancestral work. I don't think that that would be a problem at all with this deck. Oh, this card. It's so gorgeous. I mean, but I kind of feel that way about almost every single card in this deck. I feel like every card in this deck is so gorgeous. That's my tarot of mystical moments for my deck that I would use for ancestral work. Well, the next emoji is crystal. The best gilding or edges. Now, I did give an honorable mention to one of my favorite gilded decks, which is the Cosma Visions. But today I'm gonna share with you my favorite edging, and I think it's because I edged this deck myself. And this is my Forest of Enchantment, and I just love the blue, and I don't know why I did that. Well, maybe because there's a little blue here, because when I look at this I think, oh, that's green, that's definitely green, but I decided to edge it in this blue color, and it's just so awesome. I just couldn't have been happier with the edging process. And I have to say, right, like edging is a challenge for me. It's hard for me to stay engaged with the deck for that long. And I get tired, I get bored easy, I stop, I pick it back up, I try to keep going. I feel like this was the first time that I edged a deck, and it taught me to love the process. That was the first time I felt that way when edging a deck, and it was with this deck. I learned to love the process. I really bonded with this deck in a way that I didn't imagine. And I love it. I'm glad that I have it in my collection. In fact, this was probably when I returned to tarot, when I made my return to tarot a couple of months ago. This was one of the first decks that I picked up and started working with. And yeah, it was affirmations all around. Like, this was a deck that needed to stay in my collection. I just love it. So I have very special feelings about the edging on this deck because I did it. Because I did it, and because I loved it. So that's my Forest of Enchantment. So the next emoji makes me laugh. Island, your deserted island deck. And I was like, you know what? I just always have, thoughts, things going on in my head, conversations. I always feel like I need to just reach out and, share with somebody. So if I was on a deserted island, I feel like I would need a point of connection with someone. And in this case, it's going to be my Shadowscapes, because this is my chattiest deck. This deck, because of everything that happened to me with this deck, the water damage, and how long it came. This deck came overseas. This was sent to me by a very dear friend in France. And it took a very long time to get here. I almost thought that it was lost, and then it appeared and it was completely waterlogged, and it was just heartbreaking. And I've shared this before in other videos. I peeled the deck apart card by card, and a lot of the artwork peeled off, and some of the titles came off. I had to get a marker and write them back on, and then I dried the whole deck, and you could see here, like I just wrote it. The world. I just wrote it. And then afterwards, the deck was, I'm not kidding, the deck was probably like this thick. It was insane. So then I ironed the deck. And in a couple of cases, I just went overboard with the ironing, and they bubbled up. Like you could see, there's just all kinds of madness going on here with this deck. But anyways, I couldn't like give up on this deck. And I love it so much, and it's so thick, and it it shuffles in a way that I just this shuffles like decks that I had as a kid growing up. And like I would never shuffle any of my other decks this way, but look how easy like this it's just so awesome. And then when I overhand shuffle this deck, the cards just fly. They just fly all over the place. And it's always the most appropriate message. It always is. And so this is probably the only deck that I have that I could have full on conversations with and be, oh, what do you think? And then boop, pull a card and it will give me the answer. And I just love it. I just love it. I would never get rid of it. I know that I could, easily replace this deck. It's available. It's a mass market. It'd be nice to have the guidebook, or even to have the larger version. I think there's a Czech version of this deck that has larger cards. But yeah, I would never do that because it's just so special the way that it is. Oh, if I was stuck on a deserted island, this is gonna be the girl that comes with me. That's my Shadowscapes, edged by me. Now, the next emoji, Moon, your wisest deck. Well, I am going to say that it is a deck that I recently just finished working with for the first time, and I'm just madly in love with it. And this is my Tarot of Strange Branches, or Tarot of Strange Antlers. It is a French deck that I picked up from, actually I think I ordered this from Amazon France a couple of years ago. And gosh, this deck, it's just so special. Like there's a lot of feminine energy in this deck. I love it, because of my life situation. I'm a single parent, right? I'm raising 2 kids, and as the primary breadwinner and the head of the house, and all the different things, I always, like, my masculine tendencies come out all the time. I've mentioned this before. Like the Emperor is my card, and I often feel like that Emperor energy just comes out. And in a way, it's really interesting, because some of the best things that I do because of that Emperor energy. But at the same time, it is such a stumbling block for me at times, because I forget to connect with the feminine aspect within me. And this deck helps me. This deck helps me see that this deck is just so loving, so grounding, so reassuring. There's a lot of feminine energy in this deck. It's like I don't know, like self-love, and I don't know. It's very nurturing. It's just, gosh, everything that I feel like I need a lot of times. So For that reason, I will say this is gonna be my wisest deck because it gives me what I most need at times, a sense of balance. And I just love it. I'm so happy this deck came into my collection. So that is Tarot of Strange Branches. The next emoji is plain, the deck that you would use when you are traveling. And I'm actually gonna share 2 decks for this. So this here is my illuminated tarot. This is my only, I mean, I know this isn't RWS and technically it's a clone, but I say this is my only RWS deck. I don't consider this a clone. I just love this deck. I love like all the colors. It's so bright and cheery. The size of this deck is really great, right? Because it's just a little bit smaller. Like I have small hands and it's a little bit smaller than tarot, but a little bit bigger than bridge size. And I love this deck, and the reason that I say that this would be a deck that I would take for travel, this is a Carol Herzer deck. And so I think once I joked and said it was plastic. It's not actually plastic, it's laminated, but because of that it's very bendy. So here, I'll show you. See that? And it just snaps right back. Now, of course, you wouldn't do that to your deck, right? Over and over again. I'm just doing that to show you how flexible it is. But because it's laminated, it makes it safe in places like pools, the beach. So this is the deck that I take with me when I'm doing weekend beach getaways, when the kids and I travel and spend time somewhere at a, maybe a resort where there's a pool. I can easily take I never have to worry about this deck getting damaged or ruined because of the way that it was made. And it's such a great deck. I love having this in my collection, and working with Carol was such an amazing experience. It would be awesome if at some point I could add a second Carol deck to my collection. If I did, I might do like the one with all the sparkles. I just love that deck. It's so beautiful. But this one's beautiful too. I'm sorry. This one's beautiful too. I love it. I love working with it. And because of how it was made, it makes it very easy to travel with. And she made the bag. Like, this bag is awesome. And it came with the deck. It's so beautiful. It's just a piece of art. The other deck that I would say is my traveling deck is what I like to call my adventure tarot deck. And this is my Naturescape. So here's the card backs, and I can't ever showcase this deck without talking about how obsessed I am with this match. It's just so awesome. When I found this bag, I think like on Etsy, I was just blown away. I was like, that's perfect. So anyways, this is my adventure tarot deck, and I have often traveled with this deck. It's a perfect card for the great outdoors, and this is probably the only nature deck that I have. And I think because it's photographic, it makes it easy for me to connect with it and understand it and read with it. I find it very easy to read with this deck. This deck I took with me, let's see, I went on a self-discovery trip to here. I went here out to Arizona, and I took this deck with me, and whoa, we just had such moments of, deep insight and reflection. Look at that devil card. Like, it's so good. 10 of Swords. Right? When I envision the 10 of Swords, this is what I feel. Like sometimes in the Rider Waite and you have, that body on the floor with 10 swords, that doesn't feel the same as when I look at this card. This feels like fog, overwhelm, limited visibility, not being able to see. You can see the end point, but you can't see how you're even gonna get there, and it just seems like an impossibility. Like, this deck is just amazing. I love it. Look how gorgeous. It was so awesome to be in this location with this deck. This is probably one of my favorite cards in this deck. The Eight of Pentacles. It's just gorgeous. It's so great. This whole deck is just so great. I really love it. And so I call this my Adventure Tarot deck because I was inspired by Candy and her little, she has a little, it's like a little container, and she keeps her deck and all her little things in it, and she goes out on these adventures with her deck, and I always felt like I want to do that too. Shame on me, because I prepped everything in the bag and then I don't do it as often as I thought I would. But in this bag, I keep, I keep some stones. I have I love this. This is a moss agate cube. I don't have any cubes. This is my only cube and I love it. And then these are my moss agate prayer beads. Love this. And a pendulum. I keep a pendulum, and in fact, this is the pendulum that I used a couple of Octobers ago. The kids and I went to a corn maze. So it was like a labyrinth made out of corn maze. And we split up, my son and his then girlfriend, and then my daughter and I. And I don't know, my son got out of there pretty quick, but my daughter and I were in there for a while. Isn't this, look at the sparkle and the little rainbows. I don't know if you could see it, but it's so pretty, this pendulum. I love it. My friend sent me this. Anyways, I used this pendulum to help us get out of that labyrinth, because in the beginning I just wanted to try to figure it out, but towards the end I was getting a little anxious and I was like, God help me. And I pulled out the pendulum, and I kid you not, it helped me get out of there at the end. It gave me all the turns that I needed to finish, and it was awesome. But I don't know if I'm gonna go into a labyrinth again anytime soon. So my traveling deck, this is my Naturescapes, not to be overshadowed by the Illuminated Tarot. The next emoji was Ribbon, the last deck that was gifted to you. And for me, it's gonna be this one, Kai Tarot Love. This deck, I wanted this deck, but I was at a period where I felt like I needed to pause on consumption. So I did. And a very sweet, loving, kind, gentle soul purchased this deck for me and sent it over the holidays. And the art in this deck is just stunning. Even here, I mean, look at, this is the Devil card, and it's beautiful. Like, all of the cards in this deck, this would be another one that I would also say, like, I consider art, but also a deck that requires me to sit with the cards, right? It's not as easy to read with as some of my other decks, but that's why I love it. When I'm looking for something a little bit deeper, I will go to this deck because I need to sit with these images and let them sink in. And it's just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous. I love it, and it's very special to me because it was gifted to me by a fellow student. We did Sadhana's Tarot Foundations class, and that was an awesome experience to learn with a group of others, and spend quite a few weeks together, going over the tarot and the symbolism and the numerology and the astrology and the meanings and tying all the cards and looking at different spread. I mean, it was just so great. Such a great experience. I would highly recommend something like that if you're ever looking for a way to kind of deepen. Although, like with tarot, I always feel like I'm always learning and growing. There's always something that I'm picking up. There's always something that I'm like, oh yeah, I remember learning that. And maybe I just forgot, or whatever it is. But with tarot, I always feel like I'm learning and growing. And I love that I get to do it with this deck that was gifted to me by that beautiful soul. And I'll just pause right here because this is like amazing. The 10 of Pentacles. It's just glorious. I love this art, and I love this deck. And I love you, friends. Thank you for this amazing gift. You know who you are. This is my Kai. I don't know if it's Kai or K. I always say that. Kai or K. Tarot Love. I have to say, I did watch quite a few videos that were doing responses to this tag, which was a lot of fun. And I watched Feeding My Soul doing the tag, and it was quite funny. She added an extra emoji. So, it was like, a little bonus at the end. So the extra emoji is rainbow, your most colorful deck. And I knew immediately that I had to participate because I cannot stop gushing about this particular deck, which ironically is a deck I haven't even used yet. But I'm very much looking forward to it, and I love and adore it. This is my Saki Saki. I am the artist edition, and this deck is something else. Look at those backs. Do you see? That's so pretty. All right. This is not the only, because obviously, well, not obviously, I'll just say, in case you've never seen any of my videos before, I love my decks to have color. I don't do as well with decks that are monochrome or black and white or muted colors in the deck. I don't enjoy those as much. I love to have color in decks, and so this is just a deck that not only puts a smile on my face every time I look at these crazy images, but it's just so colorful and vibrant, and it puts colors together that I would never dream of putting together. It's just awesome. I just love this deck. I mean, look at this. I love that they added this little house over here. Goodness gracious. But this deck is awesome. I first saw this deck on, if you guys remember Katie Flowers, I loved her. When I first came to tarot, I was obsessed with her channel, and I watched a lot of her videos over and over again. And she had this deck. She had the original version of this deck. That was the first time that I saw it, and I thought to myself, what on earth is that? It just seemed like the craziest deck I'd ever seen, and a lot of the figures didn't have heads. I was like, what is that? And so then, later on I found out that they were going to redo the deck and that they had reimagined some of the cards. And so some of those cards that were headless now actually had heads. And sometimes they're floating, but sometimes they're attached. This is the bonus card. See that? The artist. But it's just such a fun deck, and I love its color, its vibrancy, its use of color. I think is the thing that gets me. I love that every card has a different color border. That to me is awesome. And I love that the colors are used in a way that I would never dream of or imagine. Colors, putting colors together that I would never think like, oh yeah, that's a match. Oh, the sun card. I have an affinity to the sun card, and this one is just quite glorious. Oh, I'll stop my gushing there. This is the Saki Saki tarot. I can't wait to sit with this deck and work with it. I know it's already a favorite and I haven't even used it yet. It's already a favorite. I love it. I bought it this amazing bag that I felt like was the most perfect match. And I just adore it. So that is it. Those are my responses to all the various emojis. And I have to say thank you so much to Han for creating this fun tag, and special thanks also to Feeding My Soul for adding the extra emoji, because that was a lot of fun as well. I always have so much fun doing the VRs, but like also watching other people's responses to them always brings me great joy. So for that reason, I feel like I really love doing, I love sharing my decks and sharing how I practice and talking about tarot and journaling and a bunch of different things. But VRs are quickly becoming a fast favorite for me. So thank you so much. And thank you for watching today. I appreciate you.